Today we're going to be talking about what makes depression unique as an illness and the sneaky way that the symptoms of depression cause and maintain the depression cycle. Hi everyone. I sometimes hear people reference depression as a medical condition or a medical illness that needs to be viewed and treated as such. Depression is often talked about as due to chemical imbalances in the brain, and people often think about depression in similar ways as we think about physical illnesses. Now, while I would agree that depression is associated with chemical imbalances in the brain, I think that viewing depression in this biological illness model is too simplistic and makes it more difficult for anyone experiencing depression to do anything about it. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how depression is different from other illnesses and the unique ways that depression fuels itself. But before I get into that, just a couple of disclaimers to go over. I'm a registered psychologist in the province of British Columbia, Canada, and this video is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute or replacement for advice from your doctor or mental health professional. Now, with those things out of the way, let's start talking about depression as an illness. Now, I want you to think about what happens when you have a cold or a flu. Think about the underlying process that's happening. There's a virus that you may breathe in. The virus enters your cells, replicates, leading to an infection, which causes you to feel sick. And this sickness is associated with a number of physical symptoms that we relate to having a cold or a flu. Things like runny nose, fever, coughing, congestion, those types of things. Now, the thing is, these physical symptoms of having a cold or a flu, they're due to our body's immune system responding to and fighting the cold or the flu infection. The fever, runny nose, fatigue, congestion, coughing, all of those symptoms, they're all ways that our body is responding to the infection and ridding ourselves of the virus. So the symptoms of a cold or a flu are indicative of our bodies responding in a way to make us feel better. The symptoms of a cold or flu aren't actually contributing to the underlying cause of the cold or the flu, which is the virus and the viral infection. The symptoms are our body's way of eliminating the underlying cause, the underlying infection. Now let's consider depression and think about whether depression works in a similar way. What are some of the symptoms of depression? Well, these are things like decreased motivation and withdrawal from activities that you enjoy doing, social withdrawal, social isolation, not contacting friends, not spending time with people, changes in appetite and diet, not wanting to eat very much food, skipping meals, going the entire day without eating, or eating unhealthy food. Difficulty sleeping, so problems falling asleep, waking up through the night, waking up really early in the morning and having difficulty falling back asleep. Feelings of fatigue, loss of energy, being easily exhausted with doing simple tasks like going grocery shopping or even brushing your teeth. And depression's associated with negative thinking patterns like thoughts of worthlessness, beating yourself up, unreasonable guilt, thinking overly negative about other people or the world more generally. It's associated with cognitive difficulties like problems maintaining focus or concentration when working on a task, difficulties with short-term memory, being forgetful or absent-minded, difficulties making decisions or processing information. These are all various symptoms of the illness of depression. These are all the ways in which depression gets manifested in terms of our thinking and behavior. But the question is, or the thing is, the symptoms of depression act in a very different way than how we talked about the symptoms of a cold or a flu. When we're talking about a cold or a flu, the symptoms were the body's way of eliminating an infection. They're not causing or contributing to the virus replicating and making the infection worse. But is that the case in depression? Well, no, it's not. And this is one of the ways in which depression differs significantly from other types of illnesses, and why it is so sneaky and insidious. Unlike what happens in a cold or a flu, the symptoms of depression actually cause the underlying depression condition to get worse. One way to think about depression is that it consists of a series of negative feedback loops in which the symptoms of depression feed back into the depression, making the depression worse and contributing to even more symptoms. So let's go through the various symptoms of depression and see what impact that the symptoms would actually have on how you feel, how they actually impact your mood. Now, suppose you usually love playing hockey or hiking or going out to movies or playing video games with your friends. And you stop engaging in those hobbies and recreational activities. You stop doing those things that you enjoy doing because of depression and decreased motivation. What impact is that going to have on your mood when you stop doing those things? Do you think you're going to become less depressed or more depressed if you stop doing things that you enjoy doing? Well, you're probably going to feel more depressed, which then saps your motivation to do those enjoyable activities. If you withdraw socially from your friends, if you stop going to parties, stop answering your phone, stop returning text messages from people, and become more isolated, what impact is that going to have on your mood and depression? Well, it's going to make it worse, which makes you just want to withdraw even more. Suppose you stop eating healthy. You aren't fueling your body. You stop getting nutritious food in you. And you combine this with poor or non-restorative sleep, feeling low energy, fatigue, feeling exhausted all the time. What do you think that's going to do to the intensity of your mood difficulties and depression? It's going to make it worse, and you're going to feel more depressed and more tired and more fatigued and have greater difficulty sleeping and have less appetite. If you're engaging in a lot of negative thinking patterns, beating yourself up, telling yourself you're a failure, questioning your worthiness, anticipating that you're going to fail at things, what impact do you think those types of thinking patterns have on your mood and how you're going to feel? Well, they're likely going to make you feel down, hopeless, and even more depressed, causing you to think in even more negative ways. If you're having difficulty concentrating and focusing, having problems reading or watching a movie because your mind wanders and you can't keep track of what you're doing, if you're constantly forgetting things or misplacing your phone or wallet, if you're struggling to make decisions and having to defer decisions to other people to make for you, if you're experiencing these types of cognitive difficulties, what impact do you think those things are going to have on how you feel? Well, you're probably not going to feel great, and it's likely to make you feel even more depressed, which interferes with your cognitive functioning. So the key is to understand that depression consists of these negative feedback loops that are constantly driving the depression cycle onward. The symptoms of depression feed back into the depression itself, thereby driving mood, motivation, and energy downwards. This is the insidious nature of depression, and this is why depression is so much different than other illnesses we think about. And that's one of the reasons why it's important to think about depression differently than how we typically think about medical models of illness. We can't view the symptoms and cause of the depression independently from one another, as we do with other types of illnesses, because the symptoms and underlying depression go hand in hand. And so you might be asking, okay, I get this, but so what? I understand that depression consists of these negative feedback loops in which the symptoms of depression make the depression itself worse. What can I do with this information? How does this help me? Well, the key is we do have some control over changing some of the behaviors and thought symptoms associated with depression. So, for example, if one of the symptoms of depression that I'm experiencing is low motivation and low desire to engage in my recreational activities, one way to break that spiral, to break that negative feedback loop, is to engage in those recreational activities even if I don't feel like doing them. Now, this idea is something I've discussed in a number of previous videos when I've talked about the importance of goal setting and behavioral activation to short-circuit these depression cycles that can occur. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I'd encourage you to take a look at some of those videos. So, I hope that gives you a better understanding and a better sense of some of the ways in which depression differs from other illness models or other types of illnesses. I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas or questions about this, so please leave me some comments or questions in the comment section down below. If you've been enjoying my videos and would like to see more, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell, and you'll be alerted every week when I post a new video. So that's all for today's video. As always, thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one.